Veritaseum released an update to the VeADIR with some platform improvements that I want to go over. You're looking at one of them right here. The performance metrics have been implemented, but let's take a peek first at the things that have been updated that I found so far. So we've got the main update is for performance metrics. I'll just go through these one at a time. So addition of the graphical view, that's what we were looking at right here. Previously, this is the main page of the VeADIR, and previously it just had a list of the exposures and that information, and it didn't have any VE assets on there, and none of it was graphical. And so now with this update, what we see is a list of the assets by performance. And so let's take a look here. Addition of the graphical view, value displayed in your default currency. So let's look at that first. We see, looking at VE Palladium, that in US dollar terms, over the last 5 years, it's up 71.29% in USD. If we were to say, look at that in the Japanese yen, what we'll see is, wow, completely different performance because it's based on the currency, right? 4.74%. You can do that for any of the currencies. British pound, let's see how they're doing. Wow, 96%. So certainly British pound weaker. What we could do also is look at it in terms of Bitcoin or Ethereum. Look at this. Look at the performance on Ethereum. Oh, it doesn't have a 5-year view, so that kind of takes us into the next one here, selectable time period. Previously, well, we didn't have this chart before, but where there were charts, you could performance charts on the asset itself. You couldn't select the time period. So now we can select what was the best performer this week in Ethereum. VE Silver, 4.6%. For the month, silver in Ethereum down 16%, and for the year, well, looking at Palladium, Palladium shifted up. You'll see, since it's sorted by best performance, it's shifting the highest performer here. This is amazing. The 1-year chart of Palladium against Ethereum, 324% nearly. Pretty incredible. Okay, what else do we have here? We've got the available supply versus the total supply. So underneath each graph here, you'll see available, and it actually shows there too, available / total supply. So available supply is 40, so 40 ounces of this token out of 57 ounces. Likewise for gold grams, 1 gram token, 425 out of 1784. So that's that. The open button, and you click it to go to the respective asset. So for this one, Palladium, if we click the open button, you'll notice it took us over to the assets page, selected Palladium, and opened up the pane, informational pane to the right over here. So this is the previous view that we've had. I'm going to shift this back into the dollar. So next up, or the other final thing that's at least viewable or noticeable in terms of performance metrics is the Veritaseum team started to lay the groundwork for implementing the future velocity metrics, and they need this to implement, or they need the implement a token tracker as their method of solving how to track the velocity in here. And so here's a recent transaction to purchase 1 VE silver. Oh, I'm sorry, 8.1 VE silvers. This transaction did utilize the very discount, so it used some Veritaseum there as well. And then you'll notice right here this new strange looking token, in case anyone actually does look at these transactions. You'll see a high quantity on here, and then this ERC20 token. So this is Veritaseum's approach to solve that velocity. So I don't know how this works. It would be a good question for Reggie, but I'm assuming, you know, it's baking in value. You see a lot of different amounts here, some of them quite large. So somehow they've implemented this token tracker to be able to track the velocity on the platform, because now you can swap directly back and forth between assets on here. And so essentially what would happen if you just use the old market cap measure, if I sold one of my palladiums and bought gold with it, total value is going to be really very much similar, maybe down very slightly because of transaction cost, but essentially the market cap can't capture that value transfer that just happened. And so the new token tracker capability will allow Veritaseum to track things like that, the velocity of the tokens within the platform. Market cap is only going to measure things, value going in and out, and overall changes in value. They're not going to be able to, that market cap methodology, it's pretty weak, and there's no way for it to capture that kind of value transfer. So that's a really good thing. Okay, so that's it for performance metrics. If we move on now to the wallet, we see the addition of the graphical view in the wallet as well. So if we click on the wallet icon down here, that takes us over to this view. And previously it had a view sort of like this down at the bottom, and now they've added this version of the pie chart on top here. We've seen this before in the exposures, where they show an exposure and it would list the assets within the exposure. So this is a similar look to that. And so first implementation here, it looks like a little bit of alignment issues, but I'm sure that will be corrected next drop. But what you can see here is it basically, well, it gives you the total value of your wallet in your default currency, and then here it's showing basically this pie chart's showing then the breakdown within the wallet. So clearly we can see I'm overweighted in palladium. You can hover over it then and get the value in your currency, this number right here as well. So then you can click. You may be required to authenticate or sign using your key, and that's just to ensure that the VeADIR knows you have ownership of this account. So I'm going to sign that, and we see then that now that I've clicked that, this opens up the history view that was previously existing. Okay, balance by asset, we looked at that and clicked view history pane. And so also just, this isn't new, but I also want to point out they Veritaseum previously implemented this and it stays here. Within the history pane over here, there's some additional functions you can do, and this is fantastic. You can actually buy off the shopping cart, you can sell, or off the three-dot menu you can redeem or enable the token, and you can send and receive it, all here without traversing back over to VE Assets to do it. So that's great. I'm glad they kept that functionality there. And then the last new thing I saw here I wanted to point out is there's some new research out on VE Research. So if we click there and get to that, we will see when this guy opens up, there's a Outlook, China Outlook, April 19, and I think this one may have been there a little bit longer, but it's fairly new as well. Brexit and trade impacts on gold. So just as a reminder, you can click the open. That will open up the research in a new tab, and that research is in the form of an Adobe PDF document, and then you can just read it down here. This is from Paul Shea, Chief Economist of Veritaseum. Just as a side note, if you're curious about Mr. Shea, you can go to paulshea.com and learn more about Mr. Shea and his background as a professor, associate professor of economics, although according to this he's on leave now, but he's got his CV or his resume in here and other things. So you can see he's a pretty high-powered guy, and he's the one doing a lot of this research now for Veritaseum, or at least sort of heading it up among the research team. So okay, let's come back over here. That's good. Again, that's paulshea.com if you're interested. He came to Veritaseum via the Miller-Tabak arrangement. Okay, folks, that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like. Appreciate it if you'd subscribe as well. Take care. And before I say goodbye and sign off, a quick plug for my new shirt from Bit Curious Mom. Thanks much, BCM. We'll see you next time. Take care.